So I'm sort of unintentionally doing like a run of female-led fantasy books because this one very much falls into that category, and this is A Throne of Glass. This is a YA book. I didn't pick it up when it first came out. At that point, I'd sort of started to grow out of those books, and it just didn't really appeal to me at the time. But I always thought the artwork and stuff was cool looking, and I like the idea of another female-led story, especially after finishing The Hunger Games, which I absolutely love. I love those books. I think they're amazing, and honestly, this book gave me very similar vibes in terms of the depth of the main character. First things first, this is just a really great YA story, so it is. It's very inventive. It doesn't have the tightest of plots, I would say, but it definitely flows very, very well. It's very easy to read, and it's not a particularly small book. The version I have is over 400 pages long, and it kept me engaged throughout the entire run of it, basically. And I don't know if that had more to do with the fact that it had like an almost tournament arc sort of vibe to it. I watch a lot of anime, so I kind of eat that stuff up. So, it was very much up my alley. And honestly, I think the most shining element of the book I felt was the characters. And by far, the best character in this book is Selena, the main character. She is rude, she's snarky, she's mean-spirited, but it's all front. She's actually super intelligent. She's thoughtful and she's empathetic, ironically, because she's a badass assassin. So seeing the conflict between her mask and her true self is actually very, very interesting. I actually really enjoy following her point of view when reading this book. Just listening to her inner monologue and her true thoughts about people, because she can be quite say judgmental about certain people, and some of the things that she sort of thought to herself, I just sort of laughed at, because there is a snarkiness to her that is very, very funny, especially towards Cale. I think her and the relationship that she has with him is just very, very interesting. Which brings me on to one of the core elements of this book. Now, this book, initially I felt to myself, there is a love triangle in this, and I thought, oh, here we go, YA fantasy trope. This does probably not need to be in here, and it's just going to be really, really annoying. That didn't actually turn out to be true, kind of for a number of reasons. I kind of have like a layered feeling about the love triangle in this book. Like I said, my first initial thought was this isn't necessary, but the more I thought about how the author wanted to take Selena's character, Selena is essentially a complete untouchable badass. She's super skilled, highly trained. She is not matched by any of her peers besides really the main antagonist of this particular book. And basically she's kind of untouchable. In different circles, someone would call her a Mary Sue, but that's not really applicable in this story based on the way that the author sort of depowers Selena at the end, but I'll get more into that towards the end. Now, how does this relate into the love triangle in this book? Basically, I think the message that the author is trying to get across here is that you do not need to abandon your femininity to be like a main protagonist of a certain genre that is traditionally filled by a sort of male role, I felt. We get a lot of inner thoughts from Selena, in which she, one minute is wishing she could stab someone to death and be rid of them and smash their face in, but then on the other side, she is gushing over her hair. She's worried about the way she looks. She's fantasizing about going to the ball and having a dance, and she actually has romantic thoughts and feelings towards the men in her life. And why does this matter? It's because in traditional media, whenever a woman takes on a say, action-orientated role or a lead of a film, the director or the writer will often just have them behave like a man and sort of abandon femininity because it doesn't fit that role, if that makes sense. And the author chooses not to do that. She allows Selena to keep her femininity and her girlishness, and that is where the love triangle comes into play here. Because yes, Selena is this very, very capable character who is filling this action-orientated role, but on top of that, like, she's still a young woman, and she still has thoughts of romanticism, and she is a romantic at heart. We see that in the the smutty books that she reads, and the humor that she has with the boys, and she's still very self-aware of herself. She's very aware that her and the prince just should not be, and she just sort of takes action, just sort of cuts that off at the artery towards the end of the book, which I was just like, wow, okay, like, I'm on board with that. And it just does lend fervor to her character. It serves a purpose, is what I'm trying to say. And it carries it out very well, and it characterizes her very well. And I understand more of what the author was trying to do by putting this part in here. I actually understand the reason behind it, whereas in a lot of YA, it's just thrown in there because that's kind of what you do and it's kind of expected, but it never really serves an ultimate purpose to further the character development, if that makes sense. By the way, I am 100% Team Kale. I don't know why, I just prefer him over the prince. I just love an underdog, and Kale is sort of that sort of stoic, has no confidence in himself, doesn't know what to say. I don't know. It's just, I just like his character. I prefer his character over the prince's, and that's it. I also like Selena's relationship that she has with the other princess, Nehemia. I think it's Nehemia. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. But yeah, she has a nice relationship with her, and she ends up becoming like a confidant for Selena. And by the end of the book, she's basically the only one who really knows Selena for who she is in all ways and is privy to her most private thoughts. And there is a little bit of conflict between the two within the book where Selena begins to doubt herself. Because she's become very, very much obviously, considering that she was betrayed in the past, which again sort of hints to a greater backstory to the world that we're going to explore into. Well, I plan to explore into, because I'm definitely getting the next book in the series. Just to criticize anything, like I said, the plot can be a bit weak at times. You know, it's obviously been done before. It's not going to be award winning, if that makes sense, but at the same time, it's still very entertaining, keeps you gripped, and it serves its purpose, which is more to facilitate her character than anything else. And the only other real criticism is we're kind of restricted to the one location within this book, which is a shame, because it's actually a positive to say that the world building has been so interesting up to that point, where you're kind of like, oh no, I kind of want to know more. I want to see what the other parts of this world look like. And in that case, it's very, very engaging. And considering how the book ends, it's very, very likely that we will get to see a lot more of this world. But I think the fact that I put the location as almost a downer, as almost a positive, because it just means that I'm just so interested in exploring the world further, that I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see a bit more of it within this book. Just in conclusion, this is a great book, a great fantasy book, and I just really, really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it to someone, and I'll be carrying on with the series, obviously, and as soon as I read the next book, I'll have to post a review for that as well.